Well, a cloudy, cool afternoon today in Columbus, 46 degrees as we get set for kickoff. The Buckeyes and the Fighting Illini. For Illinois head coach Tim Beckman, well, his era at Illinois has not started as he would have hoped in a 5-game skid. Not sitting real well with the coach after their recent loss to Indiana.
How do I look? Honestly?
You look okay, but I mean, you keep.
I lost 22 pounds.
Have you?
Yeah. You think I like losing? I haven't been around it. No, I hate it. So, you know, you just continue to go. Plug forward. I've learned a lot. But, no, I don't like losing. Hate it.
And despite the losses, Tim Beckman looking at today as a big opportunity to make some noise and to get back on track for the rest of the season. And for more on Illinois, let's send it down to Paul Carcaterra.
Well, Beth, at 2-6 and still searching for its first league win, Illinois head coach Tim Beckman has had to deal with a disgruntled fan base, especially after a 31-17 loss to Indiana last Saturday to spoil homecoming. Despite the backlash from fans, administration continues to support Beckman and this rebuilding project. As for his players, they have no plans to throw in the towel. We don't have any quitters on this team, star defensive end Michael Buchanan said. Everybody wants to win games. We can still make a bowl game, so we're going to fight until the very end.
Thank you very much, Paul. Urban Meyer on the opposite sideline, a mentor of Tim Beckman's. They've been together on the same coaching staffs, and of course Urban started out here as a grad assistant at Ohio State, and Tim Beckman also spent some time here with the Buckeyes as an assistant coach. Ohio State has won the toss. They will defer to the second half, so Illinois will get the kickoff to start things out this afternoon. Not many teams can come in here and find a lot of success, Joey, but Illinois is one of them. As we witness the fight for the Illabuck Trophy today, it's the second oldest rivalry in the Big Ten, and down there on the bottom, Illinois has won 7 of its last 11 games here at the Horseshoe, including that big one in 2007 when the Buckeyes were undefeated and ranked #1 in the country, and Juice Williams came to town and scored 4 touchdowns and leading the Illini to the big upset. From his own 10-yard line. Hawthorne going to bring it out. Finds a little bit of space out across the 25-yard line. And that's where Nathan Shieldhouse will take charge. Shieldhouse has missed all or parts of 3 games with injuries and relying a lot on his experience. This now his 3rd year as a starter for this Illinois team.
Shieldhouse hasn't played great this season, but he has been banged up. They're excited that he is getting healthy and hopes that he will play better today, you know, because he feels better. He's a running quarterback, and he needs his legs to make plays.
The 6'3", 200-pound junior out of Kansas City, Missouri, working out of the gun and sacked on the first snap of the day. Right back in his face, John Simon, the senior out of Youngstown, Ohio.
And there is no worse start for this Illinois team than to see John Simon come free off the left end and get to your quarterback. They gave up 7 sacks last week to Indiana. That was an area where they wanted to improve, and they start off the game with their quarterback hitting the dirt.
That is the 31st sack the offense has allowed this season. As Illinois shows its no huddle once again, Donovan Young out to the 26-yard line. How about the impact players? Brought to you by the Galleria Jewelry.
For Illinois, you start with running back Donovan Young. You've seen him get a 5-yard gain. He's their big play guy on offense. If they're going to have a chance to stop this running game from Ohio State, Jason Monheim and Jonathan Brown, the linebackers, lead them in tackles. They'll have to play well today.
3rd and 11 as Shieldhouse checks to the sideline. Shieldhouse with time drops it off to Young out of the backfield. Taken down by Roby and Shazier at the 33. That'll be shy of the first down marker. Well, we could see a lot more of Donovan Young today, by the way. Josh Ferguson, their other tailback, out with an injury. He was unable to practice all week. He did not make the trip with Illinois.
They talked about injuries, and then they lose Ferguson for today's game. He leads them in all-purpose yards. That's a big loss for this Illinois team.
Justin Duvernois will punt it away, and it is a low end-over-end. Off to the right and out of bounds. Smith won't even get a chance to return. 34 yards on the punt as Braxton Miller now steps to the forefront. 130 yards rushing per game. That's 11th best in the country. He's got 12 touchdowns on the ground and 12 in the air.
And the problem with stopping Braxton Miller is you may stop him 4 or 5 plays in a row, and the next thing you know, he breaks the big one and takes it to the house, and that's how he racks up those big yards.
By the way, the clock on our scoreboard there down the bottom of your screen looks a little strange. They're having some clock issues here inside the stadium. Miller on his first carry is tripped up by the guy that the Illini have to have a big afternoon from, one of their impact players, Jonathan Brown. How about for the Buckeyes?
You got running back Carlos Hyde. He's the big man, averaging 110 yards per game the last 4 games. Jonathan Hankins in the middle. A nice combination of speed and strength. And then Ryan Shazier, he's the playmaker on this defense. You'll see him all over the field.
Well, Buckeye fans looking for a good start from Ohio State. There haven't been many of them. In fact, they've been outscored by opponents in the first quarter this season. Jonathan Brown able to force Miller out of bounds.
They're going to have a chance. That's what they need. Jonathan Brown, already 2 tackles in this game. 2 of them on Braxton Miller. On first down, in open field, makes a tackle, then runs him out of bounds. You got to keep track of Braxton Miller and let the other guys, or make the other guys, beat you.
3rd and 7 for Miller and the Buckeyes. Empty set for Braxton. Pressure coming right up the middle, and they get to Miller. Glenn Foster, the first guy there to haul him down, along with Tim Kennard, and a loss of 9. And Illinois comes through that 3rd down defense, which is the best in the Big Ten, 12th best in the nation.
Coach Meyer talked about on 3rd down the different looks that this Illinois defense gives you. They get in a 3-man line, they crisscross, and have the ability to confuse the offensive line and tackle Braxton Miller.
Hawthorne is back deep. He's taking over some of the special teams duties after Tommy Davis has had some problems with fumbled punts this year. Ben Buchanan just does get it off in time. And Hawthorne will fall on it at the 36. A punt of 38 yards from Ben Buchanan. So neither side can muster on its first possession. Nathan Shieldhouse heading back out when we come back.
College football in high definition is presented by Vizio.
Back here in Columbus, Ohio, the sun now starting to peek out from behind the clouds. Scoreless early in this Big Ten matchup in the leaders division. The Buckeyes are at 5-0 in the leaders. The Illini 0-4 in the division. And Nathan Shieldhouse back out there at quarterback. Their leading rusher and passer last year, but he's been hampered by injuries this season. And an offense that is the lowest scoring in the Big Ten and one of the lowest scoring in the country, and wrapped up in the backfield is Shieldhouse once again by Nathan Williams, and a loss of 3.
I know this defense is excited to have Nathan Williams back on the defense. He's been banged up with a knee injury. When he's on the field, he makes their entire defense quicker. He comes off the edge pretty good, makes a big tackle for a loss, sets up a 2nd and long.
It's an Ohio State defense that has been improving in the last couple of weeks. That Penn State game, probably their best effort. Shieldhouse stepping up, and the completion to the tight end, John Davis. C.J. Barnett on the stop. Pickup of 9 for Illinois.
Sets up a crucial 3rd and 3. And these are the areas where Illinois as an offense, they've got to find a way to start being successful in these situations. Stay on the field. Let their defense rest. They don't have the kind of depth as other teams, so they need rest on defense.
Shieldhouse takes the low snap, and the completion for the first down to his other tight end, Evan Wilson, at 6'6". reaching up to snag that one.
Shieldhouse looks comfortable right now in the pocket on these 2 early throws. When you watch him on film, a lot of throws get away from him, not real accurate. Early in this game, 2 straight completions, looks pretty comfortable so far.
First and 10 from their own 47. Shieldhouse with the pump fake. One move gets across midfield. Scampers out of bounds at the 45-yard line. Run out there by Nathan Williams. Well, Joey, you can speak to a quarterback that's had some injuries and trying to get used to a recruiting core, receiving core this year that is without A.J. Jenkins, who was their star last season and is off to the NFL.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems. You know, last season, you know, the knock was he relied on A.J. Jenkins too much, and later in the season, teams picked up on that and took away A.J. Jenkins, and the entire pass game struggled.
Young scoots to the outside, inside the 45. And that's good enough to move the chains once again. Nice block up front from Michael Heights.
I like the way Donovan Young runs the ball. When you watch him, he's low to the ground. He's a big physical guy. His legs are like tree stumps, and he cuts well, and he runs straight forward. I like watching him as a running back.
He's coming off a career best 124 yards rushing in the Indiana loss last week. He's the offset back again there without Josh Ferguson. And that time, Young runs right into Ryan Shazier, who stands him up.
And Jonathan Hankins also. When Hankins decides he's going in a certain direction, there's not much as an offensive line that you can do to stop him. When he has a big physical guy that can lock out his arms and let his body run free. And a lot of times he takes the offensive lineman with him.
That hurry-up offense into the air and making the catch is Langford trying to get a foot down, and he does. The grab by Ryan Langford. Pickup of 7. All he needs is that 1
nice
foot
play.
down.
Gets 2 down.
Yeah.
Nice play.
Damian Ayula now is in at tailback on 3rd and short. Shieldhouse incomplete, and a penalty flag on the coverage of Christian Bryant. Looked like he had an arm wrapped around Langford.
Pass interference, defense number 2. Automatic first down, spot foul.
Brian is not great in pass coverage. When you watch him play, he appears to come a little earlier, hand on the receiver. He's not, he is a safety that is much better when he's at run support, coming up, making tackles. In pass defense, not so great.
Flag on the snap there. Well, you alluded, Joey, to how good they are up front with Simon, Hankins, and Williams. They've got one of the top rush defenses in the
Ball
country.
started. Offense, number 68. 5-yard penalty. The down remains. Second.
But when
First.
attacking the Buckeyes defensively, they give up almost 280 yards a game in the air.
You know, I think that their defensive line, they're stout. They're hard to move. They have guys that it at times takes 2 offensive linemen, which allows their linebackers to run free. And that's why they're so good at stopping the run.
Young in motion. Shieldhouse will go the other way to Darius Malines. Gets a nice block out in front to the 25-yard line. Stopped by Bryant. Some pleasantries exchanged at the end of the play. Malines and Hankins.
Doing a pretty good job of being successful in this drive, at least on first down, getting positive yards, which did make 2nd and 3rd very manageable.
Or the hurry up. Shieldhouse incomplete, short on the throw. You certainly get the sense, though, Joey, that Illinois has come here with a sense of urgency. They know that a win here could change the entire outlook for the rest of the season and beyond for Tim Beckman.
Absolutely. The opportunity for this team coming in here, facing the number 6 ranked team, they're on the road. They know that their fan base isn't happy with their season so far. If they can pull this one off, it makes everything else feel better.
Another chance here on 3rd down. Fieldhouse incomplete. Been short on several throws here as he puts that one into the ground in front of Darius Malines. He's now 6 of 8. And now 4th and 6.
I think they have to kick it in this situation. Try to get points on the board, be the first one on the board. We talked about how they've been outscored in the conference. I think if they could get points and be the first team to score here, it gives their defense a little more energy as they come back on the field.
This is Nick Emekis, who was the starter early, then got hurt. Taylor Zaleski has been kicking in recent games, but now Emekis is back in there to attempt a 43-yard field goal. On its way, and it is good. And the Fighting Illini grabbed the first quarter lead on the road in Columbus. Nick Emekis back from injury. And true to form from 43 yards out. 3-0 Illinois. Back here in Columbus, Illinois with the early lead. And how about a little Heismanology for you? This is the official Heisman voters that work at ESPN. If they had a vote today, and here's what they think right now with Colin Klein out in front of Manti Te'o in the 2 spot. It's been a while since the defender has won it. And then Braxton Miller right there at number 3 in the Heismanology poll. And our Heisman tracker will be popping up throughout the course of the game with stats on Braxton Miller for you today. The kickoff, and coming out of the end zone with it is Rod Smith. A spin at the 20-yard line to the 21. Let's check in now with Reese Davis.
All right, bedtime for a Taco Bell studio update on ESPN2 or ABC. Many seeing Texas Tech. David Ash finds Jackson Shipley. Ash, of course, pulled from the Kansas game last week, playing for the Chancellor Spurs, and the Longhorns are up 7.
Thank you, Reese. So Braxton Miller back out at quarterback. Carlos Hyde right behind him in the backfield for Ohio State. Of the power conference teams in the country, those two, the best rushing tandem in America. Short gainer there right up the middle for Carlos Hyde. Mason Monheim with the tackle, their true freshman, getting the start, an Ohio native at middle linebacker today. The Buckeyes, as we alluded to earlier, have had their first quarter struggles throughout the season, and then the rest of the game they've been dynamite.
I think when you run the option game at times, it takes a little time to get used to what the defensive end, what the tackle is doing. Those are the guys you're trying to read as you're trying to option. As a quarterback at times, it may take you a little time to see what this guy's trying to do before you can hit him for the big play.
Speaking of big plays, Carlos Hyde out across the 40. Sprung by the left side of that line, Jack Muart and Andrew Norwell. And then got a nice block by Stoneburner out on the edge and a pickup of 19.
You can see the 2 big offensive linemen pulling around, picking off Monheim, the middle linebacker, getting blockers downfield. That's how you hit the bigger plays when you got your receivers, your offensive linemen downfield, picking off guys in the secondary.
Rod Smith behind Miller. Braxton going to give it to Smith. He barrels his way across the 45 to the 47. Jonathan Brown, Justin Staples get him after a 5-yard gain.
And Smith has been a pleasant surprise in the past few weeks for Ohio State. You know, Carlos Hyde is getting 20-plus carries a game. It's nice to have Smith come in and relieve him at times.
Sophomore out of Fort Wayne going to get another carry, showing his strength right there as he brought Akeem Spence along for a couple more yards.
Sets up a 3rd and short for this offense, and this is where it's scary because they have the backs that they can just hand off and get the couple yards inside, but you still have to pay attention to Braxton Miller because he can still hit the big one.
Smith, for the 3rd time in a row, needs the 48, and he gets the 47.
The Illinois defensive line is getting some penetration, and that has been one of the problems when you watch them play. Their defensive line at times doesn't show up. They're going to need that penetration to make these backs from Ohio State make a cut and allow the rest of the defense to rally.
Defensive coordinator Tim Banks said this front line should be our strength, and it's not where we want it to be yet. trying to be that strength this afternoon. They'll go with 3 guys down, and Buchanan on his feet off the right side, lining up as a linebacker and dropping off into coverage. Miller with plenty of time and a wide open Stoneburner at the Illinois 25-yard line. First down, Buckeyes.
Illinois cannot afford to allow Braxton Miller to stand in the pocket and overlook their entire defense. If they're going to have a chance, they got to get pressure on Braxton Miller. They bring a blitz, they just don't get to him. Braxton Miller calmly finds Stoneburner on the sideline.
Terrific blitz pickup on that play as Carlos Hyde spun around at the 20. Picks up a few. Shuposani coming up from the secondary to make the tackle. And the player down for Illinois is the guy that we talked about right at the top of the show, Jonathan Brown, their leader, one of the top outside linebackers in the country.
He also leads this defense in tackles for loss. I mean, if there's a guy that they can't afford to not have on the field, it's Jonathan Brown. And he's been banged up a little bit this season. And if you watched him play, at times, he doesn't look like he's moving very well. And he's been injured, and they're happy to have him back. So this could be a big setback if he's not able to recover from this.
His career high, by the way, 17 tackles in the Ohio State game a year ago. Jonathan Brown, the junior from Memphis, Tennessee. They will help him to his feet. One of the things that Tim Banks talked about that Brown is one of the guys chiefly responsible for. He said when you're dealing with Braxton Miller, keep him inside and keep him in front was the phrase that he used, trying to keep Miller boxed in. Tim Banks, part of the new coaching staff at Illinois. This is the 8th play of the drive that started back on the Buckeye 21. Miller going to keep, gets a nice block from Hyde to the outside and inside the 10 to the 9. First and goal, Ohio State.
Nice block by Carlos Hyde, coming up and picking up the linebacker. And that's the problem when Jonathan Brown goes out the game. He's backed up by a freshman linebacker,
Svatina. First and goal, Buckeyes. Miller, nice juke inside the 5 to the 2.
These are the kind of drives that hurt this Illinois team later in the game. They just don't have the kind of depth that can spell these defenders. So if they go on these long drives, you see them in the 4th quarter, they look worn down.
And the Buckeyes not letting that defense catch its breath. Carlos Hyde pulling his way into the end zone. Touchdown Buckeyes from 3 yards out. Last week against Penn State, not so good in the first half, really good in the second half for the Buckeye offense. And when we asked Tom Herman about it, he said tempo. We went faster. And Joey, at the end of that drive, they went a lot faster. And they pushed it in, the 11th touchdown for Hyde, and the extra point good from Basil. The junior out of Naples, Florida, finishing off the big drive for the Buckeyes and a 7-3 lead.
ESPN College Football is presented by Cars.com, where confidence comes standard, and in part by Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper, always one of a kind.
He's one of the most conspicuous guys in the shoe on game day. That Sousavone player dotting the I in Script, Ohio, prior to the game. Carlos Hyde, his 11th touchdown of the season from 3 yards out, capping off a 79-yard drive, 3.5 minutes. Needed 10 plays. Most of those, they churned it out on the ground. And a 7-3 lead here with 4:14 to go in the first quarter. Hawthorne's going to bring it out of the end zone. And he makes makes a nice move to get to the edge. Hawthorne across the 40 and run out at the 45. To the studio now, and an update from Reese.
All right, Beth, time for SportsCenter right now, presented by Discover Card. And the man who dressed up as Scooby-Doo for Halloween, Johnny Manziel, made Scooby snacks out of the Mississippi State defense. 311 yards passing, 129 more on the ground. A&M now 7-2. They roll past the Bulldogs 38-13.
Well, I'm sure Scooby was popular with the Velmas and Daphnes down at A&M for Halloween. 7-3 our score here. The field goal for the Illini, followed by the Buckeye touchdown. And now Nathan Shieldhouse will take it himself across midfield.
One of the biggest differences in Shieldhouse this season is because of the injuries. Had a high ankle sprain early in the season. Hasn't been that big play guy that can reel off the big run. He'll get you 5 or 6, but that's about it.
They were looking at Jonathan Brown's shoulder on the sideline, and now they are going to take him back to the Illinois locker room. Their starting linebacker, quick hitter to Darius Malines inside the 40, and an Illinois first down. Pickup of 11.
Jonathan Brown leaving the field, it just speaks to the depth that they don't have. He's backed up by a freshman. That now means 2 freshmen will be on the field playing linebacker for Illinois when they come back on defense.
To their credit, they don't use the injuries as an excuse, but there have been plenty of them this year for Illinois, including their quarterback Shieldhouse, who is now on the run to the 35-yard line. A nice block by Hugh Thornton. Let's send it down right now to Paul Carcaterra.
Star linebacker Jonathan Brown injured on the last defensive possession for Illinois. His return is questionable. 45 and white, injured his upper body, appears to be his right shoulder. Trainers put him through some tests. He returned to the defensive huddle, but now into the locker room to be further evaluated.
Thank you very much, Paul. One of their top pro prospects, as well as their leader on that defensive unit. Shieldhouse on second down, stepping up, firing from the lines, incomplete. And a penalty flag as Christian Bryant came in late at the end of the play.
After the play, personal foul, late hit defense number 2. Half the distance penalty, automatic first down.
Christian Bryant has got to pull off here. This is his second penalty in the first quarter back in the secondary. He has got to pull off. Don't take that hit. It's an incomplete pass. He has time to stop here. Officials call this a lot this season. He has got to know that.
Malines will take a play off. Justin Hardy, the converted defensive back, is now on. He'll go wide left to the boundary. 1st and 10 after the penalty. Donovan Young to the 15. Knocked down by Hankins. Young is their leading rusher as well as their second leading receiver. Multifaceted talent out of the Houston area, and just a sophomore. They only have 2 senior starters on this offensive unit.
Coach Beatty talked about Donovan Young's hands out of the backfield. What great hands he has. He's second on the team, has 27 receptions on the season so far. But they like him out of the backfield, the ball in his hands.
Shieldhouse off the pump. Designed QB run, and Shieldhouse trying to get inside the 10. That will be very close to another first down.
A nice design play. You send Young in motion out wide. It widens out the defense. Shieldhouse fakes the pass and then runs for 6 yards to get the first down. Really nice play, nice and safe, keeps the ball out of harm's way. They want to find a way to now punch it into the end zone, but that is a nice play to get this first down and set up the 1st and goal.
Harris, the motion man, the fake to Harris on the end around. Shieldhouse with Williams in his face, throws for the end zone, incomplete.
Nice play by Nathan Williams. Stayed home. Did not take the run fake. Just stayed home playing the nice play. Made it a tougher throw on Shieldhouse. Fakes the reverse. Comes around. Here comes Nathan Williams. Full speed. He is always a high motor guy. When you see him going somewhere, he's going fast. Forces Shieldhouse to get rid of it.
They had a wonderful recruiting class for defensive linemen coming in this year, but these veterans up front have held their own. One of the strengths of this team with the 3 seniors and the junior Hankins up front. Young on 2nd and goal, trying to get to the edge, and there's Zach Boren, the converted fullback, hauling him down at the 9.
How about Zach Boren at linebacker? He plays linebacker like he's a fullback. He's a downhill guy, doesn't try to avoid anybody. He's going to the football, straight line, whoever's in his way, he tries to run him over to get there. Zach Boren he's done a terrific job of making the transition from fullback over to linebacker.
Only been there for 3 games. Doing a terrific job in the middle. 3rd and goal. Right into the student section. Simon with the pressure and almost picked off at the 1-yard line. Orion Johnson tried to get up and get it. And Johnson slow to his feet.
I think that's I didn't catch the ball, so I don't feel so good getting up on his feet. I think Peter made this interception here. He got up a lot quicker than that. And that's what Luke Fickell talked about. When they have their chances, especially at making interceptions, those are plays they have to make and start getting the ball back to their explosive offense.
He said, we got to make the plays that come our way. And now a 28-yard field goal attempt for Emicus. And that one is good. So a couple of field goals for Illinois. A drive deep into the red zone. They get 3 more up. The Buckeyes by 1. Now the short north here in Columbus, Ohio. The Buckeyes and the Fighting Illini and the BCS Countdown presented by Discover Card. Sunday night at 8:30 on ESPN and then 9 o'clock on ESPNU, the latest unveiling of the BCS standings. Here are the remaining undefeated teams. Alabama, Kansas State, Notre Dame, Oregon. Louisville is victorious, so they join the Buckeyes at 9-0 as Ohio State tries to get to 10-0. They've got the 7-6 lead. They'll have the football, but first we'll check in with Reese Davis.
This, the Dr. Pepper conference update from the newcomers in the Big 12. Geno Smith in West Virginia against TCU. It's a little touch pass to Tavon Austin. That was a 1-foot pass, about 85 yards of running. It's going to be like about 50 officially, but he ran one side to the other, and Tavon tied it at 14 in the second.
Thank you very much, Reese. Buckeyes by 1. A couple of Illinois field goals, keeping things interesting. And the pass is incomplete. Nick Vanette did not get a foot down in bounds. Well, the Buckeyes coming in at 9-0, 5-0 in the division. The Fighting Illini looking for their first Big Ten win of the season.
Illinois getting some pressure on Braxton Miller, not allowing him to sit in the pocket, making him make a throw on the run, and that one sailed out of bounds.
Miller has Carlos Hyde joining it again in the backfield. Devin Smith, the solitary receiver, to the left.
Ruling on the previous play was an incomplete pass. The previous play is under further review.
Well, they're going to go back and look at the Vanette play over on the sideline. It looked like the right foot steps down out of bounds. That's actually the play where they stopped it before the snap.
Want to let you see the official first.
I'm not Not sure if the Buckeyes will be able to get this one turned over.
It didn't appear to be close when we saw it in fast motion. Maybe they saw something that we didn't on the sideline.
He's 81 in red there at the top of the screen.
Yeah, not close.
Did not look like
Not
the left
close.
foot. Looks like they're both in the air. And well, did he get the left toe down?
From that angle, it looked possible, but I thought he was out of bounds on the replay.
He may have gotten the left toe down, I think is what they're going to take a closer look at.
After further review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. Incomplete pass.
So with 32 seconds to go here in the first quarter, 2nd and 10 for Ohio State. Braxton Miller going over the 1,000-yard rushing mark, the first in Ohio State history in that win. Not only was it a big win, but Urban Meyer said it was a big, big win at Penn State on the road in their last time out. And here is Miller working with the feet, getting out across the 35 to the 36-yard line and a first down. Terry Hawthorne with the stop and pickup of 12.
That's what you get with Braxton Miller. I mean, you give him a crease, he can get through it and reel off 10 to 12 yards before you know what happened on defense and move the chains.
Illinois again going with the 3-down linemen, and they're using Buchanan as a linebacker off that right edge, perhaps to help out with Mike Svatina, who is replacing Jonathan Brown at outside linebacker. The throwback to Vanette. He needed a block, couldn't get one. Well played by Hawthorne coming up out of the secondary. First quarter complete in Columbus and a 7-6 Ohio State lead. Well, the Big Ten Conference known for its trophy games, and at stake today, the second oldest Big Ten trophy there is, the Illabuck. Presently in the hands of the Ohio State Buckeyes for their win last year, 17-7. Joey, did you ever cozy up to the Illabuck during your playing days here?
That's the first time I've seen that trophy. It's nice. I haven't seen that before.
A wooden turtle, the Illabuck at stake. And on second down for the Buckeyes as we start the second quarter, they lead at 7-6. Carlos Hyde with a short rushing touchdown. And now Braxton Miller breaking a couple of tackles before Terry Hawthorne is able to trip him up at the 45. Down to the field, and an update now from Paul Carcaterra.
Bad news for the Illinois defense. Star linebacker Jonathan Brown will not return, confirmed by Illinois officials, a right shoulder.
Well, that's not good news for the Illini at all. Paul Brown, their leading tackler last year, their leading tackler again this season, and their passionate, energetic leader for this defensive unit. Being tested by Braxton Miller, Carlos Hyde and company, and the pitch to Rod Smith across midfield, and a first down to the 47, bumped out by Pat Nixon-Yeoman.
And Illinois on defense, they have to do a better job. They're not in bad position, but they've got to finish this play and just make this tackle, and they're fine. They missed the tackle, they give up 8 yards and give up the first down, and now it resets, and you give Braxton Miller 3 more plays to try to hit you for the home run.
Again, number 34, Mike Svatina, is the outside linebacker replacing the injured Jonathan Brown now the rest of the way. Miller, straight drop deep down the middle. Van Eck's got it inside the 20 and down to the 15-yard line.
And it's a nice throw by Braxton Miller, hitting Van Eck down the seam. This is a throw last week. They hit an 80-yard touchdown versus Penn State with the same type of throw. He looks comfortable going down the seam with the throw. Looks comfortable throwing the deep ball down the sideline. It's the balls that are like the out throws, the shorter throws that sail at times on Braxton Miller.
Miller keeps a whirling dervish in the backfield, gets to the 14-yard line, picks up a couple. Glenn Foster with the tackle.
Pretty good job by the Illinois front line. They have got to make Braxton Miller make a few cuts to allow the rest of the defense to rally. You could see even on this play where he gains 2 yards, he makes 3 or 4 guys miss before everyone else rallies and contains him, and that's the way you have to tackle Braxton Miller.
Miller now with 32 yards rushing. He's over 1,100 now for the season. The top rushing season in Ohio State history for a quarterback. Miller thought about a pitch to Hyde. Down at the 14, that's going to bring up 3rd down and long. Akeem Spence didn't bite on the fake.
2 straight plays, the Illinois defense puts Braxton Miller in a position that he has to try to find a way to gain a yard or 2. Sets up a 3rd and long. Ohio State in this situation, I would run the ball again. I would find out if Carlos Hyde or Braxton Miller can pick up these 8 yards. It's the safest play right now. And at times we talked about Braxton Miller, the ball will sail on him. You don't want to make a mistake down in this part of the field.
3rd down in the red zone for Braxton Miller. That one's going to be incomplete, well overthrown. Intended for Michael Thomas. Hawthorne with some good coverage. He's another NFL prospect out there at the cornerback position. And obviously, Urban Meyer frustrated at that effort. Headset yanked off.
From a quarterback and a receiver situation, that is about as bad of a play as you can run. Braxton Miller throws it 10 yards out of bounds, but Michael Thomas is running 4 yards out of bounds. That is just a poorly executed play.
Drew Basil just 3 of 5. He hasn't been called upon to kick a lot of field goals this season. Trying from 31 yards. And he pokes it through. 10-6, Ohio State. The Buckeyes get points, but not as many as Urban Meyer wanted. At the Illabuk Trophy looking on, the wooden turtle. That leads us to our Aflac trivia question today. That is the 2nd oldest trophy in the Big Ten. What is the oldest trophy in the Big Ten? You going Little Brown Jug? You going Paul Bunyan's big old chopping stick, or what?
I think it's the axe. I think it's Bunyan's axe. What do you call that? Chopping stick? Okay.
Paul Bunyan's
that
axe.
Works.
Yeah, yeah. That'll be answered for you, of course, momentarily. The kickoff here. After the field goal for Ohio State, it's Hawthorne. We've been saying his name quite a bit. Out across the 30, so another good starting field position for the Illini offense. They've had a couple of nice drives. They've stalled, been forced to go for 3, and a reason why they're just 1 for 4 on 3rd downs thus far today. Buckeyes have twice as many total yards offensively, and they've been pretty good on the ground. As Nathan Shieldhouse heads back out, 7 for 12 for 42 yards through the air today. Fake to Donovan Young. Shieldhouse going to keep, runs right into Ryan Shazier, who's got his 7th tackle of the day already.
Coach Meyer said that Shazier, the last 2 weeks, has played his best football of the season. As you said, 7 tackles already today. When you watch this defense on film, number 10 shows up all over the field as if he's running at a different speed than everyone else.
Luke Fickell told us he's been playing his best football of his career the last few weeks. The incomplete pass intended for Eddie Valunas. It's going to bring up 3rd and 7.
Shieldhouse has struggled with his last few throws. I talked about earlier how he looked comfortable. He nailed a couple throws. This is how the Illinois season has gone. At times they look pretty good, and then at times they look really bad. Shieldhouse has been up and down. He has got to start completing passes like he did in the middle of the 1st quarter.
Buckeyes in the nickel. They've got a 5th defensive back out there. Williams on his feet. The down lineman is up to the right side. Shieldhouse across the middle, complete to Darius Malines, diving for the marker. But the spot will leave him a yard short. And again, it's Ryan Shazier taking him down.
Shazier's on the field. Zach Bourne's on the field at linebacker on a 3rd and 8. I don't know, if I'm Illinois, I might want to try to find Zach Bourne and go with him. I mean, this Shazier guy seems to be tackling everybody on the field. I would try to stay away from him, especially on 3rd and long.
Justin Duvernois is on to punt. Devin Smith back inside his own 20-yard line. Not a good effort from Duvernois. Shanks it out of bounds. And the Buckeyes will have it at their own 36-yard line. The football and the lead in Columbus. Welcome back to Columbus, Ohio. The Horseshoe, home of the Buckeyes. And the Illabuck Trophy is in the house. It's the 2nd oldest trophy in the Big Ten. What's the oldest?
I'm going with the jug, Beth.
Oh, I was going to go with the jug. You were going with the axe. You changed your mind.
Changed my mind.
Come on.
Hey, I'm right.
You stole the answer from me. I'll take Paul Bunyan's axe and chop you right down to size. The jug in Ann Arbor, by the way, after they beat Minnesota earlier today without Denard Robinson. They won it 35-13. Denard unable to go. Devin Gardner filled in ably. 17-7, the score last year. And really, Braxton Miller, that was the game, the one game that stood out in terms of the passing game of Braxton as he goes to his feet, gets pushed down at the 48. Well, last year he had just, what was he, 1 of 4, I think, in that game, right? For 17 yards, and that was a touchdown in that Illinois game. Illinois playing in 3 different trophy games. They're trying to grab hold of all 3 of those, so they are coming in here with 10 consecutive Big Ten losses. And on the season right now, a 5-game skid. And this is a tough place to stop it, but they've had success here in the past. And Miller with a burst inside the 40-yard line of the Fighting Illini and a 1st down.
And this play is made by center Corey Lindsey, who pulls around and leads Braxton Miller up in this hole, gets a nice block on Justin Staples, keeps him off Miller, and allows him to have a lane to run for a 1st down.
$14 yards on the pickup. This possession set up by just a 22-yard punt from Illinois, giving the Buckeyes the short field. Miller's got Hyde behind him. The fake to Carlos. Braxton Miller with the time and the catch. Philly Brown inside the 10, diving close to the 3-yard line.
Braxton Miller stands in the pocket, has a chance to look over the entire secondary, and finds Philly Brown coming across the field on the sideline. Nice throw, again, right in the middle of those young linebackers. You talked about Brown being out of the game with young linebackers. You miss the guy coming across the field, and then Carlos Hyde up the gut. That's what makes this offense so scary, is they can hit you from all angles. Carlos Hyde inside 8 touchdowns in the last 4 games. He's just been a beast.
They go to the fast tempo yet again. And they just utilize Muhort, Norwell, Lindsley, Hall, and Fragel, the guys up front, powering Hyde back into the end zone for the 2nd time today. Extra point is good from Basil. Carlos Hyde had to go just the 5 yards, but it was set up by the 32 yards from Braxton Miller to Philly Brown. And then Hyde gonna finish things up in a 17-6 lead here in the 2nd.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by the new 2013 Ford F-150 with EcoBoost. and Internet Explorer. Welcome to a more beautiful web.
A little practice yesterday with Thad Matta and the Buckeye basketball team. Preseason poll, they're third in the Big Ten and fourth in the country. That's how good the league should be this year, with Indiana leading the way at #1 in the preseason polls. Of course, the Buckeyes coming off that trip to the Final Four. They'll open up November 9th, the regular season, against Marquette down in that Carrier Classic on the deck of the USS Yorktown in Charleston, South Carolina. Men's, women's doubleheader with the ladies playing Notre Dame. Terry Hawthorne cut down at the 13-yard line. Outstanding coverage by the Buckeye special teamers. Let's check in with Reese Davis.
Beth, it is time for a live look-in powered by PlayStation Vita on ABC or ESPN2. You're either seeing the Big 12 or the Big 10. Michigan State just scored a touchdown to go up. They're reviewing it, obviously, as Spartans have played much better offense than expected. And Texas has played better defense than expected. David Ash has rebounded from the benching last week. Horns up 21-10 on Tech.
Thanks, Reese. Well, how about the Wolverines rooting for the Spartans today? They need some help from Michigan State. If they can beat Nebraska, that puts Michigan back atop the Legends division after their win earlier today against Minnesota, as Illinois gets the pickup. 2nd and 4.
It's a nice strike by Shieldhouse. He's 2 of his last 8 after completing his first 6 passes. He has got to get back into a rhythm and start completing some of these balls.
The give to Osei. He's got the first down out across the 25. Let's go down now to Paul Carcaterra.
Ohio State defensive line coach, former Buckeye and Super Bowl champion with the Patriots, Mike Vrabel, has been very active with his unit, stressing penetration and rush moves. For a guy who just left the NFL, Vrabel, an up-and-coming star coach, a lot of rotating fresh players with this unit as well.
Thank you, Paul. Well, they talked about containing Shieldhouse and trying to stop the run, make Illinois throw the football more today. And a gain there on first down, a pickup of 6.
Zach Bourne out in space versus Nathan Shieldhouse. That is not going to be Zach Bourne's specialty. As you can see, he whiffed on the tackle. Nice play by Shieldhouse. Looks pretty good. Legs look good today.
Shieldhouse, keeper all the way. A flag is down. He's run out of bounds by Hankins. What do you think is probably the toughest thing for him to pick up, Zach Bourne, going from the offense to the defense? Is it the pass coverage?
Well, I would guess the pass coverage, and I would also guess, just like we saw the last play, out in space, it would be tough for him to be able to break down and get in a perfect tackling position to grab some of these more athletic guys like Shieldhouse, like Donovan Young.
Personal foul, shot block, offense number 69. 15-yard penalty. Repeat, 2nd down.
I think that was 69, Ted Karras. Yeah, well, Bourne is the senior from Pickerington, Ohio. Had 30 starts at fullback 3 games ago, moved to linebacker. He was an outstanding linebacker as well as baseball player in high school, and had been asking actually for the last couple of years to switch over to play some defense, and he finally got his opportunity due to some injuries and some guys, some younger guys that really have not been performing up to expectations. And on the snap, the Shieldhouse fumble. Nathan Williams bearing right down on him.
And here comes your issues for Illinois. Goal coming in, don't kill ourselves. So you can see Shieldhouse doesn't handle the snap. And the problem, it sets up a 3rd and long where they're not very good. No one is. But it'll bring that defense back on the field if they don't get this first down. And that defense has got to be getting tired because of the momentum and the amount of time that Ohio State is keeping them on the field.
Shieldhouse. Flag is down as Shieldhouse is tackled at the 15. That'll be well short of the yardage needed. Flag thrown, though, back inside the 5-yard line, and you can see it's going to be a holding penalty. Dave Whitvote already signaling it for us.
Holding, offense number 7. Penalty is declined. 4th down.
Okay, so here we go. Don't look away on Buckeye special teams. It has been an adventure both for and against them this year. They have blocked 6 kicks. They've also had 5 blocked on them. But an opportunity here with Duvernois perhaps on his own 1-yard line. Brown at his own 40. They came after it, and Duvernois belts a beauty. Brown back to his own 25 to the 38-yard line. 54 yards on the punt, 14 on the return. Paul Carcaterra's got a special guest with him.
I'm with Troy Smith, 2006 Heisman Trophy winner, back in Columbus now with plans to go to graduate school. What are your impressions of the 9-0 Buckeyes?
I'm kind of biased when I say it, but anytime that we get wins, I definitely love it. Urban Meyer's doing a tremendous job, and we have an awesome quarterback underneath center.
How would you assess the play this season of sophomore quarterback Braxton Miller?
So far, it's been a progression. I think that he's learning game by game. I said it to you before, he's got a glass ceiling over his head. All he has to do is bust through it because the sky's the limit. And I think he can be the greatest quarterback to ever come through here. I really do.
You won the Heisman. The Heisman hype will kind of escalate with Miller over the next couple of years. What would your suggestion be to him in terms of dealing with the Heisman hype?
To continue to be a leader, continue to stay focused, and be like a horse with blinders on. Don't let any of the outside distractions affect you. And he'll continue to rise, and he'll continue to do great things.
Troy, thanks for the time. Good luck with everything.
Thank you, brother. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Paul. And Troy Smith, 2006 Heisman Trophy winner. That 2006 season, by the way, engineered by Troy Smith. They went 12-0 into the BCS championship game before falling to Urban Meyer's Florida Gators that year. And Urban Meyer, he's had an undefeated season once already. That was when he was at Utah back in 2004. And then, of course, the 2 national championships at Florida. Both of those seasons, he had 1 loss. They went on to win the title. Miller rolls right, throws left. He's got a man open downfield. Rod Smith with the catch at the 10 and into the touchdown. 51-yard strike. Miller to Smith for 6. Basil's extra point is good. Braxton Miller, for the 2nd game in a row, has a touchdown pass of over 50 yards. And the strike here, deep to Rod Smith, and the score. Well, for the first time all season this week, head coach Urban Meyer finally talked about Braxton Miller as a Heisman Trophy candidate. And how about his comparison to Troy Smith, who won the Heisman for the Buckeyes back in 2006. And Troy saying that Braxton has the opportunity and the ability to become the greatest Buckeye quarterback in history. He's already got more touchdowns that he's been responsible for than Smith had back in that 06 season.
And I think the number that jumps off is the similarity in the passing yards, because you think of Braxton Miller as just a running guy, but he throws at times pretty well.
And after some shaky throwing in the last few games, he is back on top of it today. His 4 completions, 24 yards, 31 yards, 32, and then 51 yards on the touchdown throw.
And he's coming off of his worst throwing game of this season last week at Penn State, completing 37% of his passes, a number ball sailing on him in the first half. So to see him come out here and play as well as he is today throwing the ball, you have got to be encouraged if you're Ohio State.
Yeah, he went back to quarterback class, had some special time alone with offensive coordinator Tom Herman to get back to the basics and the footwork at the quarterback position, and it's paid off. Let's check in with Reese Davis.
All right, Beth, this is Georgia and Ole Miss. Now, if Ole Miss wins this game, Florida goes to the SEC championship game. Rebels up 10-0. Oh, they fooled the Rebel defense. Aaron Murray to Marlon Brown, 66 yards, but Ole Miss still up by 3 in the second quarter.
Boy, after the Gator faithful thought they might have lost the SEC East last week at the cocktail party, maybe back in business thanks to Ole Miss.
It's important on this drive for this Illinois offense to stay on the field. They've got to move the chains, if nothing else, to allow their defense to get a rest.
115 yards of total offense for Illinois thus far in this first half. Simon putting some pressure on Shieldhouse, incomplete.
Shieldhouse has got to start running forward when he leaves the pocket. He has time in the pocket. He stands. He looks over the coverage. Nothing's there. Try to make a positive gain for your offense. Now you've set up a 2nd and 10, and those are tough downs to get. So you've got to find a way as quarterback to get positive yards on first down.
On 2nd and 10, Shieldhouse into traffic and incomplete, intended for Spencer Harris. John Simon, I think, got a hand up to tip that pass.
And Simon has played well today. He's been all over the field. The stats won't show what he's done so far, but he's pressured Shieldhouse a number of times, made him throw balls away, gets a tip the ball here. Those are things that, you know, at the end of the games, you look at the box score and it may not show up, but his high motor is helping out this defense today.
Simon, 54 in red. He'll move over to the left side of that D-line. With the true freshman Adolphus Washington now at right end. They pick up the blitzing linebackers, and then Shieldhouse's pass dropped by Christian Bryant.
Christian Bryant struggles to catch the ball. If you watch it, you talk to this coaching staff, and you just say the word drop interceptions, and their heads go down because they drop 5 or 6 a game. Christian Bryant is one of the main guys who last week versus Penn State dropped a couple, drops one here today. He has got to start making these plays for this defense.
Another poor punt for Illinois will set up Braxton Miller and company with the short field. Just an 18-yard punt. And the officials are talking about a flag down on the field, but it will be against Illinois.
I think Ohio State will take this, take the punt.
Yeah.
5 men in the backfield. Offense. That 5-yard penalty will be added on to the end of the play. First down.
The punter has struggled. He has struggled today.
Yeah, Justin Duvernois not going to put this one on the resume reel. And usually pretty reliable. He averages 42 yards per punt this season. Well, we got a good one for you coming up tonight at 8 Eastern on ABC. 24th ranked Oklahoma State, 2nd ranked Kansas State, 2 of the top offensive teams in the nation. Of course, led by Colin Klein. Number 1 right now in the Heismanology poll as the front runner. That matchup coming up tonight at 8 Eastern on ABC as Kansas State tries to stay unbeaten. Louisville has already won today to go to 9-0. Sweet moves by Miller. Gets the first down and 11 yards inside the 40.
And here's Braxton Miller. Again, he's set up one-on-one with Monheim, the freshman linebacker who has played well, been very consistent. When you ask him to tackle Braxton Miller out in space when they're eyeball to eyeball, it's not going to happen very often.
Miller now with 12 carries, 66 yards. Carlos Hyde, his partner in crime, inside the 30. And if you've been tracking the Buckeyes all season long, Joey, you notice a big change for them offensively with the arrival, if you will, of Carlos Hyde as a 2nd option offensively. He has gotten together with Braxton Miller. They are second best in the nation in terms of rushing.
And that's why I call these guys thunder and lightning, because they have been a storm, especially the last 4 games, with Carlos Hyde developing it into that workhorse guy who's going to get 22, 25 carries a game. Number one, it keeps Braxton Miller healthy, takes some of the load off of his back. But Carlos Hyde puts the ball in the end zone.
They're making it rain here at the shoe. Miller drops it off to Vanette. Good check down that time by Braxton Miller as we watch a little bit of his progression as a passer, Joey. That wasn't his first option, but he still finds him.
And you talked about it earlier. They went back to school in this past week. Braxton Miller, the past few weeks, hasn't thrown the ball very well. They go back to work this past week. They go into some individual work, get his footwork corrected, and you can see it is showing today. He looks comfortable in the pocket. He's delivering the ball, and he looks as if, you know, he doesn't have to take the first read. He'll take the second read and deliver a strike and move the chains.
Miller stepping away from Foster, who almost backed right into him. And now Braxton Miller with some green. The fake at the 8, and Miller spins down to the 4. Right around first down yardage for Miller.
You could never relax no matter what. Braxton Miller has the ball in his hands. All 11 guys on defense have got to keep coming. He goes to one side of the field, goes back to the other side as quickly as anyone in the country. And you've got to try to rally and get around him. He makes offensive coordinators look good, because no matter what the play call was, Tom Herman, that goes as a positive play, a first down on his resume.
How good he gets to sit back in the press box instead of leaning forward, as most will call those plays. And now Braxton Miller going to give it to Carlos Hyde, and he is in for the 3rd time in this first half. Third time into the end zone for Carlos Hyde today. And Basil trying to make it 31-6. Well, if Buckeye fans were worried that their team might lose their focus a little bit against the team at the bottom of the Big Ten, that has not been the case at all here in the first half. Miller with the moves to set up his buddy Carlos Hyde. Touchdown, Buckeyes. Back here in Columbus, Ohio State all over the Fighting Illini, 31-6. Impressive display on the ground and through the air today for Heisman Trophy candidate Braxton Miller as Hawthorne brings it out to the 30. And let's send it back to Reese Davis.
All right, Beth, coming up on the Lexus halftime report, Georgia's in a dogfight with Ole Miss. It's another turnover fest. We had a stretch of 4 plays with 4 turnovers. The guy they called Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel, put on a show for Texas A&M against Mississippi State. And A&M's old rival, Texas, is finally showing plenty of life down in Lubbock against Texas Tech. Mark and Lou are here. We'll see you in a bit.
Thank you very much, Reese. Johnny Manziel taking the college football world by storm. Gaudy numbers for the rookie at A&M. And now Donovan Young switches hands on the run out to the 40-yard line.
Why do you think Manziel is not in the Heisman talk at all? When you look at his numbers, I mean, he deserves to be in that conversation.
His statistically, Joey, you're absolutely right. He is way above every other quarterback in the discussion, including Colin Klein, including A.J. McCarron, statistically, as well as Braxton Miller. I think it's probably just his youth and the fact that they have a loss and some of the other guys do not. Shieldhouse trying to get out of bounds, and he does.
Well, if he keeps going, I truly believe he deserves to be in this conversation. I mean, look at his total yards per game. He's at 376. No one else is close to that. I don't understand how he's not in that conversation. 29 total TDs, leads all these guys.
Well, perhaps you just put him in that conversation.
Oh, he's on my board.
Darius Malines snags it at midfield. That'll be close to an Illinois first down. They're trying to hustle down the field, get some points on the board before the break. Malines now with 5 catches here in the first half. Carlos Hyde has run for 3 scores. Braxton Miller hooking up with Rod Smith on a 51-yard touchdown pass. Scoring highlights for the Buckeyes, and a big hit at the 49-yard line. Orion Johnson staying down on the field and immediately reaching for his helmet. Now the training staff, the athletic trainers down there attending to Orion Johnson, Beth Mullins, alongside Joey Galloway. We've got Paul Carcaterra with us today as well. Impressive for this Ohio State offense. You know, when we asked Tom Herman, the offensive coordinator, about how they're reminding their guys not to let down, he said 2 words: Purdue, the team that they needed to go into overtime to beat to stay perfect on the year.
He talked about the way they grinded this week in practice. You know, the stats when you look at Illinois, they're worse in scoring offense in the conference. They're worse than scoring defense in the conference. So if you look at their record, you look at the stats as a team, you worry, will we take these guys too lightly? Coach Meyer told us he grinded this team this week. He stayed on them, didn't give them a chance to breathe, to make sure that they focused on their job and what they need to do to win.
And he reminded them that the bye week next week would be very difficult if they did not take care of business. Those were his words that he shared with us yesterday. They have the bye and then Wisconsin and Michigan to close out their season. Of course, cannot go to the Big Ten championship game, cannot go to a bowl game.
And I think this team has done a terrific job this season of not worrying about not going to a bowl game, not worrying about those external things that people talk about all the time, and focusing on just doing our job, trying to win each and every week.
Shearhouse, the rollout on 3rd down, and that's picked off. Travis Howard has it at his own 40, and he's got room to run. Roby gives him a block at the 15, and Howard all the way down to the 11-yard line. And a penalty flag back at the Illinois 35.
During the return, personal foul, tripping, returning team, number 43, 15-yard foul.
Nathan Shearhouse again rolls out, and he's making a habit of fading away from his throw. Can't get anything on it. A number of his balls have sailed out of bounds. This one, he throws right to Travis Howard for the interception. He has got to start going toward the line of scrimmage, has got to find a way to start getting positive yards and stop falling back, because he hasn't completed those passes when he's tried to do that.
So instead of at the 11, they're out on their own side of the field here to start out the drive from the 49. Miller thrown out of bounds by Terry Hawthorne, and there's a penalty flag on the sideline. And will they get Hawthorne for being a little overambitious on the tackle?
Sideline interference, delay of game. Defense, 5-yard penalty. 2nd out.
sideline interference on the Illinois bench.
Well, Beth,
is the call.
Explain that to us. What is
that's
that?
a new one. I would guess that was a member of their staff that was either on the field at the tail end of the play.
That's a first. I hadn't seen that call, and I was wondering, it didn't appear to be a late hit. So I was wondering if there was another call, and they found one. They found a different call.
Obviously, Tim Beckman did not agree. You saw his displeasure with the call. Miller going deep down the middle and incomplete. At the 1 yard line, he had Chris Fields trying to run onto it. It could be right there with the gentleman in the orange hat running into the head linesman. And he is the guy that throws the flag, Kelly Solfeld. They are all back off of the white line on the green part of the carpet now.
I'm sure that guy caught an earful.
He's trying to pull that hat down a little bit further over his eyes. Buchanan forcing Miller out of the pocket. Now Braxton with time, looking downfield. Rod Smith incomplete inside the 10. Justin Green had the coverage, the senior from Louisville.
I don't know that's going to be a call that's going to be made. I think that, Smith, the receiver, well, the running back playing receiver, can do a better job of acting as if he was trying to get back to that ball. But as long as he's trailing away, falling from the ball, that call's not going to get made very often.
So that's 4th and 10 now with 11 seconds to go in the half. And a timeout called there by Ohio State. We'll remind you that NASCAR's chase is down to 3 races. Jimmy Johnson leading what is right now the closest chase in history. As we go down to the Lone Star State and Texas, coverage begins at 2 Eastern tomorrow on ESPN. And old Jimmy's also going to be starting out on the pole for that race tomorrow down in Texas.
And I'll be there. If you need an update, Beth, I will be at that race, and I'll let you know what's going on.
What a wonderful time for you, Joey Galloway, at Joey Galloway, to start your Twitter experience and tweet from pit row for us.
I'll be busy changing tires.
You're
I'm
changing
getting down
tires?
in the pit, Beth. I'm going to work.
Team Kenseth? Is that who you're
Matt Kenseth.
affiliating yourself with? All right. We'll see if we can spot you at the race tomorrow in Texas. As the punt is on its way, Hawthorne will not get anywhere near it. And it will be down by Barnett at the 29-yard line, and his teammates are looking at him saying, hey, you could have not touched that for 3 more seconds and it would have ended the half.
And I think the officials would have let it go. I mean, 3 seconds, 31-6. Let's get in, get a Gatorade, get ready for the second half.
The clouds have moved back in. It's getting a little chillier as we head towards dusk here in Columbus. Well, the Buckeyes impressive in all facets of the game, keeping the Illini pinned down. A couple of field goals for Illinois after they had opportunities in the red zone and then stalled in Buckeye territory.
Coach Meyer still doesn't look very happy. He still looks like someone's going to get it in the locker room at halftime.
He's got a mental agenda, I think, that he's going to run down in there when he gets his team together. 31-6, Carlos Hyde with 3 rushing touchdowns in the first half for Ohio State. And they will have the ball after deferring the opening toss. They are set to receive to start the 3rd quarter. And Paul Carcaterra now down on the field with Coach Beckman.
Coach, Ohio State over 150 yards on the ground and through the air. How do you slow them down?
Yeah, well, we've got to go in there and work on that. There's no question about it. Big plays have hurt us. Braxton scrambling's hurt us. So we've got to go and make sure we know where he is at all times.
You've generated 6 points on offense. What's the point of emphasis in the second half?
Well, we got to score touchdowns. When we get down in the red zone, we got to score touchdowns. We've had that problem this year. We got to do that.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Paul. Well, 13 plays, as a matter of fact, of over 10 yards for the Buckeyes in the first half and a 31-6 lead. Now let's join Reese Davis, Mark May, and Lou Holtz for the Lexus halftime report. Downtown Columbus, Ohio, and over at the Horseshoe, the Buckeyes enjoying their biggest halftime lead of the season. They're up 31-6 on Illinois, trying to get to 10-0 and trying to hand the Illini an 0-5 start to their Big Ten season. That would be 11 consecutive conference losses if they can't make the huge comeback here today. Beth Mowens, Joey Galloway, Paul Carcaterra is also with us. And Joey, as advertised at the top of the program, the ground game really churning it out today for the Buckeyes.
When you look at the two guys, Braxton Miller, Carlos Hyde, the two guys you got to worry about, they have 150 yards rushing on the first half. And that was the only way that Illinois would have a chance to stay in this game, is slow down these two guys, especially running the ball. They have not done that, and that's why it's 31-6.
Not only has Braxton been running it well, he's been throwing it well in this first half as well, and a tremendous compliment to the ground game that he has put together with Carlos Hyde, who has rushed for 3 touchdowns today. And the Buckeyes will have first crack at it here to start the second half. And the run back by Rod Smith out across the 25. How about Braxton Miller and Carlos Hyde today?
Braxton Miller, you knew he would get some rushes today. You knew he'd get the big yards today. He's been that guy. He's been electrifying. He's made the big plays, made guys miss out in space, which is what he's special at. And then here comes Carlos Hyde. Just when you think, okay, we got Braxton Miller contained, here comes Carlos Hyde out the backfield. Boom, puts another one in the end zone. 3 today. He's done that as well as anybody in the last 5 games.
They've combined for 139 yards rushing. They are the top power conference running tandem in the country. And Miller, the pass incomplete to Stoneburner. Braxton, as we talked about, went to a little quarterback camp during practice this week, and he has been much improved in the passing game, and along with Hyde, terrific on the ground today.
And it has shown. Braxton Miller's thrown the ball well. 4 of his 5 completions are over 20 yards today. I said earlier, last week versus Penn State, probably his worst passing game of the season, and he has definitely turned that around and thrown the ball much better here today.
The gift to Carlos Hyde. He'll try right up the middle and runs into the grasp of Justin Staples. Let's send it downstairs now. Paul Carcaterra.
Well, at halftime, Coach Urban Meyer from Ohio State thrilled with both sides of the ball, specifically the interior lineman. Said they're pushing Illinois around. It's defenseman lineman's dream. He does want to get more pressure, though, on Nathan Shieldhouse. The Illinois quarterback thinks he's getting loose a little bit too much, so look for that to be part of their defensive game plan in the second half.
Thank you very much, Paul. Well, they gave up just 138 yards of total offense in that first half. Held the Illini to a couple of field goals. And another drop downfield by Stoneburner.
But a nice strike by Braxton Miller. We talked about how well he's throwing. This is 2 straight drops, but this ball is on the money, and that is a strike. You got to like that. You know, if you're Tom Herman up in the box, you got to like seeing your quarterback throw the ball like that, throw strikes, even though they were dropped.
Boy, Miller, of course, linked up with Stoneburner last week at Penn State for a 72-yard touchdown strike. But Stoneburner, the only senior starting on this offensive unit, unable to hang on there. And the punt away from Buchanan towards Hawthorne, and the fair catch at his own 28-yard line, a punt of 42 yards. Well, get your NFL Sunday started off right. First, it's Sunday NFL Countdown at 10 Eastern on ESPN. Chris Berman and the gang providing you with all the latest news and info. Then at 11 o'clock on ESPN2, Robert Flores, Matthew Berry, and Tim Hasselback giving you all the info you need to get your lineup set and to give you an edge in your fantasy football leagues. Nathan Shieldhouse and the Illinois offense back to work. The fake to Donovan Young. Shieldhouse will keep. Picks up a few out across the 30, caught from behind by Nathan Williams.
There goes Nathan Williams again, you know, playing today, has dealt with some injuries, has played well today, been all over the field, and there's his speed and quickness. These coaches, they talk about, he's a guy that stays focused, he goes hard all the time, makes a nice play from the opposite side, chasing down Shieldhouse.
Second and 7. Young to the 31, not much room to maneuver there. C.J. Barnett corralling him.
And this sets up a 3rd and long. We talked about that second quarter where the Illinois offense completely sputtered. Shieldhouse struggled to complete passes, and now early in the 3rd quarter we set up a 3rd and long. They got to find a way to start converting some of these and stay on the field.
Their longest play of that first half was just 11 yards. The Buckeye defense has taken away the big plays so far today. Shieldhouse across the middle, and that one's dropped by Malines. He would have been shy of the first down marker anyway.
There's Shazier again. Had a really nice first half, a bunch of tackles. And we talked, why go at Shazier? He's their playmaker on defense. If there's a guy that I would like to avoid if I'm on offense, just stay away from number 10. He's the playmaker. He's flying around, bunch of tackles today, a couple pass breakups, and again, makes one on 3rd down.
You'd rather they pick on the converted fullback Zach Boren if the opportunity presents itself.
I would look for him in the pass game.
The punt on 4th down. Brown back inside his own 20 to the 27. (31-6). The Buckeyes in control here early in this 3rd quarter.
Vizio.
Well, the Ohio State Band has become a bit of a YouTube sensation with their halftime shows this year. A tribute to Veterans Day. They were joined by a Tuskegee Airman out there. You saw the cracked Liberty Bell and, of course, the star right there to finish things up.
Very impressive.
Speaking of impressive, there's your thunder and lightning, Joey, and a little bit of thunder from Carlos Hyde following Jack Mewhort off that left side for 24 yards.
And you see this happen to this Illinois defense. They've been on the field a lot today, especially in the first half, and they come out, and that's when they start to get gashed for these longer runs because they don't have guys to sub in and give anyone a break on defense. So if they stay on the field for these long drives, second halves, especially in 4th quarters, offenses are going to start to gash this defense.
And doesn't this help tremendously, Joey, with the wear and tear on Braxton Miller when he doesn't have to carry it as much, and you've got Carlos Hyde that it looks like he's going to head over 100 yards again today. That second weapon for the Buckeye attack.
Absolutely, and he's been a workhorse. He's carried it over 22 times a game the last 4 games, on his way there today.
Here he is again, huge hole off the left side. Hyde carrying a couple of fellas with him to the 30. Andrew Norwell and Corey Lindsley leading the way.
And this is where they're missing Jonathan Brown, their defensive leader. We talked about him in the beginning of the game. For them to have a chance, he had to have a big game. He's out. This defense, the defensive line is starting to create huge holes. It is going to be tough sledding unless they can find a way to get turnovers to make big plays on defense.
Evan Spencer close to the 20-yard line. Carlos Hyde going over 100 yards. Those 3 touchdowns. He's got a TD now in 5 consecutive games since he returned to action after a knee sprain kept him out for a couple of games for the Buckeyes.
And that 109 yards is right at his average for the last 4 games, and he's there early in the 3rd quarter.
Miller stepping up in the pocket, and he will not be able to get loose.
That's a nice job by the defensive line, collapsing the pocket, not rushing around the end, not giving him a chance to find a seam to slide out of this. They collapsed the offensive line around him, gave him nowhere to go, and that's how you got to corral him in the pocket, because he escapes so well defensively. You can't give him a seam, and that's a really nice play, setting up a 3rd and 5, and see if this Illinois defense can find a way to get a stop here.
Front line did a nice job of keeping him inside and in front, as defensive coordinator Tim Banks talked to us about yesterday. Miller with the quick rollout, and Brown to the 21, almost scooted out of the grasp of Ernest Thomas. Crowd wants Meyer to go for it here on 4th down.
Of course, I would go here because my offensive line has done such a nice job of creating holes for Carlos Hyde. I go here, I give the ball to Carlos Hyde and see what he can do with it.
They're going to try and go fast, too. And now Miller will make sure the O-linemen have it set right. Hyde with the keep and the push forward for what appears to be 1st down yardage. Buckeyes will keep the ball.
And this tackle was made by the defensive end. And believe me, Braxton Miller notices these things. He sees the defensive end collapse down and make the tackle on Carlos Hyde. And when he sees that, you can expect that here soon he's going to keep that ball and run where the defensive end used to be.
Now they'll empty out the backfield. Hyde wide left. This was the same alignment where Rod Smith caught the long touchdown pass, lined up as a receiver in the 1st half. Miller will look the other way. He finds Smith to the 10, pickup of 9. That's the first catch today for Devin Smith.
Devin Smith is a guy that you talk to Coach Herman. They haven't been happy with the way he's played recently, and they had to sit down and have a talk with him. You know, they started to give some of his reps to Michael Thomas, to Fields at receiver, because they felt as if he was just floating through these games. So we'll see if he can pick it up a little. There's a catch and a nice gain to set up a 2nd and short.
Smith is isolated to the left. Miller looking for him and runs out of time. Glenn Foster got to him before Miller could release.
And that's a nice play by Glenn Foster. Nice coverage back in the secondary, not giving Braxton Miller anywhere to throw this ball. And again, they're doing a pretty good job of collapsing the pocket.
Jonathan Brown, one of the leaders on that defensive unit, out in the 1st half with an injury, unable to return. The heart of that linebacking core. 3rd down, they've got to get inside the 9-yard line. And now a timeout, Illinois.
They're first.
We'll take the timeout as well. Ohio State with the lead and driving deep.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Chevrolet and their award-winning cars, trucks, and crossovers. And Hampton Hotels. Feel the Hamptonality.
Now we're looking in on Dr. Brunger's Music Enterprise class. The history of rock and roll. They're using their PDAs, sending all kinds of information, taking surveys online.
A couple empty seats in that class, but a couple people might have slept in on that.
Creedence Clearwater Revival apparently doesn't have the same draw as it used to. Here go the Buckeyes on 3rd down and out of the timeout. They need 5. They'll keep it in the hands of 5. And the pitch to Rod Smith on the option left. 1st and goal, OSU.
So many options on this play. You can hand it off to Carlos Hyde. Braxton Miller keeps it, runs the option, and just when the defense thinks we got this play stopped, Braxton Miller pitches it to Smith. I mean, if you give a playmaker like Braxton Miller that many options, he's going to find something positive. Set up a short, we'll see if Carlos Hyde can get number 4 on the day.
Well, there seems to be a constant search for the Ohio State version of Percy Harvin. Perhaps that's Rod Smith emerging in that role. We've seen him everywhere. Miller will fake it to Hyde, looking for some room. Miller to the edge. Miller to the end zone. Been watching some of the moves in Dr. Brunger's History of Rock and Roll class right there as Miller shimmies and shakes to the outside. Buckeyes looking good this afternoon in Columbus. Braxton Miller says, I'm going to take this one in on my own. And the Buckeyes are rolling towards 10-0. Welcome back to ESPN College Football, presented by Cars.com. Here in Columbus, High Street. High times for the Buckeyes, inching closer to 10-0. They're up on Illinois 38-6, 6:45 to go. Carlos Hyde, 3 rushing touchdowns, and Braxton Miller has thrown for 1 and run for a score today. And the defense has held Illinois to 2 early field goals. That's been it. The boot from Basil. Hawthorne will give it a go from the 3. And he'll get out across the 25. Let's check in with Reese Davis.
All right, Beth, time for an innovative look brought to you by AT&T. Tonight on ABC, you'll see Kansas State against Oklahoma State. Now, I want you to watch Colin Klein's patience. The center, B.J. Finney, pulls around, and the 2 backs, including John Hubert, get great blocks. This is what they mean when they say an extra man in the running game, and nobody's more patient at exploiting that than Colin Klein.
Thank you very much, Reese. Colin Klein trying to keep Kansas State undefeated. Braxton Miller trying to do the same here. A couple of Heisman candidates. Nathan Shieldhouse now going to work for Illinois, and Ryan Shazier continues to dominate defensively.
Another big play by Shazier. He's everywhere. He's the fastest guy when he plays. When you watch it, if they ran a 40, he may not win, but playing speed on the field, he's the fastest guy on this defense in his style of play. He gets to the ball. He closes on the ball better than anyone.
9 tackles on the day. Well, isn't one of the things that Luke Fickell was working on with Shazier was don't overrun plays. Wait for them to develop and make your move. He did right there.
Yeah, he didn't overrun that one.
He ran through it. Fieldhouse rolling out. Here comes Zach Bourne trying to get him. Chases him out of bounds at the 25.
You wonder when Illinois may be thinking, bring in Riley O'Toole. He's the better throwing quarterback. They don't change their offense, but he's the guy that is a pocket passer that throws it better. You're down 38-6 in the 3rd quarter. You wonder if you're going to get to see him come in and throw some passes.
We have seen him this year replace Shieldhouse, in particular after Nathan got hurt in that Michigan game. They're just 1 for 9 on 3rd downs so far today. In trouble and taken down. John Simon leading the way, gets the sack and a loss of 10.
And there's a crisscross move by John Simon and this defense on Nathan Williams, loops to the outside. And when you watch film of this Illinois offensive line, they have been beaten on this type of move all year long. And I don't know if it's something that's hard to fix. I don't know if it's a coaching situation in that area, but that move beats this offensive line time after time after time.
Cole Brown back at his own 40 as Duvernois punting from inside his 5. They almost got it, and they roughed the kicker. Brown dodges after the 47, but special teams has a miscue here for Ohio State. And it's not the only time they've had a flag thrown on them on special teams.
Running into the kicker, defense number 1. That 5-yard penalty will be added to the end play. First down.
That is not enough to give Illinois the first down. It was not the roughing, it was the running into.
And I think Ohio State dodged the bullet there. I mean, I think that call could have gone either way. You know, punter's leg is still in the air and gets hit pretty good. I don't know that that's the 5-yard type of penalty, and I'm sure that Coach Beckman can't believe it, is not very happy with it. But, you know, those situations, it's a judgment call, but Ohio State definitely dodged the bullet. And those would be one of those things that Coach Meyer will be upset about. You know, when you're up 38-6 and you're a coach like Meyer, you look for things to be upset about. You want coaching points, and the mistakes, the penalties we saw early in the first quarter, that penalty, even though it was just 5 and didn't change anything, those would be the kind of things that he'll address next week.
His first season with the Buckeyes, Urban Meyer has convinced his guys that coming in today, this is a 1-game season. 1 game to play, then they have the bye week. And for the most part, the Buckeyes have not been listening to the noise here in Columbus. As we get deeper into the season, you start reading about it more in the paper. It's on the local sports talk radio. 12-0 is possible. An undefeated season isn't out of reach like it might have been back in August.
There's a lot of talk. What's wrong? But they were winning. You know, they were winning games and having to explain what's wrong because they weren't blowing teams out. They go to overtime with a team like Purdue, who they thought they should have blown them out. And people were saying, what's the problem? You know, but they're winning. They're 9-0.
Gain of 6 yards to the 47, second down 4.
After the tap pass to Brown, 2nd and 4. Do a nice job of picking up the blitzing linebacker. I may have spoken too soon. We got a flag down, possible holding. As Miller runs out of bounds at the 45-yard line of Illinois. Mason Monheim was coming right up the middle linebacker. One of the bright spots for Illinois when we talked to Tim Banks about the season that the freshman is having in the middle.
You know, when I sat and watched film and saw 43 all over the field, I had to go back and see.
Personal foul, hands to the face. Offense number 71, 15-yard lead. Beat second down.
I went back to see what year is this kid, because he shows up. And I talked about Shazier and how he looks like he's moving at a different speed than the other 10 guys on defense. Monheim has the same feel when you watch him play. He's all over the field, whether it's blitzing and coverage and making tackles. He's going to be a very good linebacker.
True freshman is from Orrville, Ohio, so you know he wanted to have a good showing coming back to the Buckeye State. Here's Rod Smith again. Ball squirts loose. Brown trying to dive on it. He had the first shot at it, but I don't know if he hung on to it.
I don't think he did. I think that he whiffed when he tried to dive on this ball. Yeah.
Illinois has got the turnover.
And that's the only way that Illinois will have a chance to get back in this game, is if they can create turnovers and create mistakes by Ohio State.
Let's see who pokes it away from Smith here. Oh, that's Ernest Thomas, got his helmet right in there.
Puts his helmet right on the ball. That Chris Spillman will be proud of that tackle. If you listen to Spillman do a game, he always talks tackling. He talks form tackling. That's putting your helmet on the football and good posture, seeing the ball and punching it out.
And off to Davis, the tight end. At 6'3", 240, the sophomore from Louisville. On a Illini offense that has scored just 5 touchdowns in its last 4.5 games now. There's 6 points coming on a couple of field goals, and they've got the short field here to try and work with. Davis again with the run.
But down 38-6. You move the chains with that run, but you're going to have to get into a faster-paced offense. And you talked to Coach Beckman, and he talked about some of the positives was the fact that they played faster on offense last week. And we're going to see that now as they're going to have to stay in a 2-minute type of offense and find a way to start getting bigger chunks and bigger gains down the field.
Again, they keep it on the ground here to no avail. Miles Osei.
And again, Shazier makes another tackle, and this time for a loss. No one's been able to block this guy. Part of that is the defensive line. You got guys like Hankins and Gobo in the middle. It eats up the blockers, and no one can get their hands on Shazier. But again, watch him close to the ball. It's impressive to see where he comes from and how quickly he gets to the ball.
With the clock running here, under 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. Fieldhouse to the air, and the catch made by Langford gets out of bounds to stop the clock at the 26-yard line.
I wonder if in these situations you stick with Fieldhouse, for future games. Not necessarily thinking that he can bring you back from 38-6 at the end of the third, but let him develop some confidence because you're thinking about future games. I mentioned, would you bring in O'Toole because he's the better passer, but they seem to want to stick with Fieldhouse.
Third down. Fieldhouse with the rollout, asked to throw it away. Nathan Williams was coming after him, and a flag down. At the end of the play, it looks like they're going to get Williams for a late hit on the quarterback.
That was a touchy call. Didn't look like much. Fieldhouse is falling away from the throw. Didn't look like much of a hit on this play.
That's an Urban Meyer pose that we saw a lot of in the second half of the Purdue game when it was nail-biting time, and you could sense his
personal foul, roughing the passer. Defense number 43.
Frustration.
Half the distance penalty, automatic first down.
Despite the big lead, he wants this team to get better and better with every play and every possession. And, oh, you're right there. That was a little shaky.
Yeah, you can see Nathan Williams is thinking about it. he thought about it and goes and makes the motion. And I think that motion that he made right at the end is what made the official feel as if he actually hit Fieldhouse. But again, Fieldhouse is falling away from his throw, trying to complete a pass, and that's going to be tough.
Davis again with the carry. They are using the beefy tight end as their primary ball carrier on this possession. Donovan Young is out there. Josh Ferguson, of course, has not been available today. He's out with an injury.
And again, that speaks to the depth or the lack of depth at Illinois right now, and it's going to take some time to get that problem fixed.
Davis again lunging for the goal line, down inside the 1.
And Davis may be, after this game, he may go to Coach Beckman's office and, hey, I did pretty good. Give me more carries. He looks pretty good running the ball.
If it ain't broke, they go right back to it. And
a couple flags.
We've got flags down as Davis barrels into the end zone. I did not see any indication of a touchdown signal from any of the officials.
There are 2 fouls on the play. Illegal substitution defense. That penalty is declined. Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, defense. That penalty will be enforced on the kickoff.
Urban Meyer may be the maddest coach up 38-6 going into the fourth quarter. I mean, you look at his face, and you would think he had the 6 points at this stage of the game. Yeah. Well, 12 at this point, but you know,
they still haven't signaled touchdown, by the way.
Well, they said never mind. It's not necessary. They put it on the scoreboard, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, you can sense the frustration there from Meyer. He wants a name and a number, too, for that last penalty.
A little trickery here.
Potential 2-point conversion here. The pass into the end zone for the 2 points. (38-14). Under a minute to go in the third. Let's send it back to the studio for an update.
Beth, it is not unusual at all to see a Holtz reigning supreme in South Bend. It's just usually for Notre Dame instead of against him. J.P. Holtz of Pittsburgh. Look at Holtz sniping through the Irish defense. He didn't get in the end zone, so Tino Sinceri found him on the next play, and Pittsburgh is on the Notre Dame 1 right now. First and goal, trying to make it 24-6.
Stunning developments in South Bend, as we've already seen Louisville win to stay undefeated, and now Notre Dame in serious jeopardy of falling from the unbeaten ranks.
Interesting that Pitt can go to Notre Dame, and then that Pitt team, it's hard to figure out that Pitt team because they compete.
They beat Virginia Tech.
They beat Virginia Tech, and that's the first time they jumped on the scene. You're like, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
They find a way to compete versus teams when you don't think they will.
Can't help but wonder, too, and we've talked about focus today. It seems to have been there for the Buckeyes for the most part this afternoon, perhaps not so for the Fighting Irish.
I mean, you wonder, what does that do to Manti Te'o on your Heisman board as he was looking at number 2?
Yeah, he was the number 2 on the Heismanology. If they can't stay undefeated, that's probably going to ding his chances significantly. Well, another Heisman candidate on display tonight, Colin Klein, Kansas State at home to Oklahoma State. It's Saturday Night Football presented by Windows 8. Coming up at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC.
Braxton Miller still, you wonder when you're going to see if Kenny Guyton will get some time in this game with the lead that Ohio State has so far.
Braxton's still out there here. Final minute of the third quarter with a significant advantage. Miller somehow getting out of there, and it's almost intercepted. Justin Green was thinking end zone before he had it.
And that's another dropped interception. When you watch film this season, I don't know what it is, but when you watch Big Ten film of this season, every single game you will see 4 or 5 dropped interceptions. And I'm not talking about miraculous plays. I'm talking about the kind that hit guys in their hands. And there's another one for Illinois.
We saw 3 of them alone late in that Nebraska win at Northwestern a few weeks ago. Carlos Hyde, good second effort to push out to the 35-yard line and a first down. Behind the block of tight end Jeff Hireman.
If you're going to try to take time off the clock late in the game, it's always good to have a Carlos Hyde. If you can have one of those late in the game, it helps your chances of keeping the clock running.
Hyde 140 yards in the Nebraska win, a career-high 156 against Indiana. He's got 121 here today. And he'll continue to add to it out to the 40. And that should be the final play of this third quarter. Carlos Hyde, 3 rushing tallies. Braxton Miller has thrown for 1 and run for 1 today in Columbus. Welcome back to ESPN College Football, presented by Cars.com. Big day so far for the Buckeyes. They lead Illinois 38-14 as we start the fourth quarter. Braxton Miller will stay on at quarterback. Carlos Hyde is offset. Hyde will get the carry. He's already over 120 yards today, and he's across midfield as well. First down Buckeyes following Marcus Hall And a couple of players down on the deck, Reed Fragel and Michael Buchanan. Fragel is the sophomore starting right guard. Buchanan, that defensive end with pro potential on the edge.
And Ohio State so far in the season, you know, they've stayed very healthy, especially on that offensive line, you know, and they have a guy go down late in this game. We'll see what happens. A lot of teams in the Big Ten, especially Illinois, have talked a lot about the injuries, and you see guys getting banged up, guys missing games, but this offensive team for Ohio State has been very healthy all season long.
Well, as they tend to read Fragel, let's take a look at this week's BCS standings, brought to you by Discover Card. Of course, Alabama's at LSU tonight. K-State at Okie State this evening. Notre Dame in big trouble at home to Pittsburgh. They're down 20-6 in the third quarter. That Oregon SC game also coming up tonight. Georgia.
That Oregon SC game, people have been waiting on this game since the beginning of the season. We'll talk about high-scoring offenses and having the ability to put the ball in the end zone. That'll be a fun one to sit down and watch.
Taylor Decker is on at right tackle to replace Fragel. Hireman, who had that big two-point conversion catch in the Purdue win with the grab. Well, Joey, your thoughts on this evening's games?
Well, I think Alabama wins the LSU game later on. I think that their defense versus the very weak LSU offense will be, you know, overmatched. Oklahoma State, K-State, I think Colin Klein just too much for Oklahoma State. And then I'm going with Oregon. I think they have a better defense than the USC defense, and they'll slow them down at some point in time and put more points on the board.
Well, coming up this evening, of course, LSU putting that 22-game home field win streak on the line down in Death Valley. And that Alabama defense you speak to, #1 in the country in scoring defense, total defense, rushing and passing defense as well. That's a special group.
Yeah, and they're facing an LSU team that struggled with Auburn early in the season. And you looked at that LSU team, you think, okay, maybe they're not as good as you think. And they've struggled on offense. And now they're going against the best defense in the land. So you expect Alabama to, I expect Alabama to win by 3 scores this evening.
3 scores.
3 scores.
Led by A.J. McCarron, another quarterback Heisman Trophy candidate. There's one right here, #5 in red. Leading the way for the Buckeye attack today. Miller feeling the pressure coming from behind, able to elude it. Braxton Miller going to tuck and step out. Pressure was coming up the middle from Michael Buchanan. I say step out, but not with a whole lot of expedition. Did he try to get out of bounds, Joey?
No, not at all. And how about his escapability? Braxton Miller can make a 6-yard run look about as exciting as an 80-yard run. He did it earlier on the 4-yard touchdown run. You know, he made 4 guys miss. He sidesteps, and then he just goes into the end zone, and it's just 4 yards, but you think he went 20, 30 yards.
Miller with the completion to Brown. Oh, nice move by Brown. Another one inside the 20, the 10, and Philly Brown finds the end zone. 37 yards and a couple of shake and bakes to get there. There were a couple of changes of direction right there for Brown. Just terrific to find the end zone. Drew Basil makes it 45-14 Buckeyes. Corey Brown from Braxton Miller. A little Galloway-esque. Weaving his way into the end zone for 6 more. Well, ESPN College Football is available anytime, anywhere on your computer or mobile device with the WatchESPN.com and the Watch ESPN app. Heisman Hall over in the Woody Hayes building. Will Braxton Miller be joining that group? Is that Vic Janowitz in the foreground there? There's a couple of Archies, Hopalong. I think an Eddie George and one for that guy as well. Most recently 2006 for Troy Smith, who Paul Carcaterra talked to in the first half today. Well, depending on what Colin Klein does later this evening, Manti Te'o is number 2 in the Heismanology behind Klein, just in front of Miller. But if Notre Dame loses today, which they are doing right now to Pittsburgh, that might bump Braxton up to number 2 and possibly to the top spot if Colin Klein falters tonight.
I'm not a believer in Manti Te'o being able to win the Heisman if he continues to just play linebacker without scoring any touchdowns, offensive touchdowns. It'd be hard to believe that he could win it. Yeah. He's at number 2 now, but there's games left. But I don't.
Why? Because Charles Woodson was a special teams guy as well when he won.
And he caught some passes for touchdowns. Teo's at number 2 now, but I mean, I think it's Klein, I think it's Miller, I think it's A.J. McCarron if they continue to win. And I don't believe Jarvis Jones will get there either at linebacker.
Going to be real interesting if it continues to play out. Of course, they have the bye next week as Davis gets another carry. Then they would be at Wisconsin and home here to Michigan to close out their season. So you wouldn't have a bowl game after that, no game in December or January to stay fresh in people's minds. Of course, the Heisman vote is early December with the presentation, but in terms of him winning the Heisman or this team getting the AP #1 votes, it would be, I think, a hard sell, judging from the people that we've spoken with about that, even here in Columbus.
And I agree with you. I think the fact that they're not in the BCS poll, everyone knows that they're on probation, not going to play in the postseason. So, yeah, I think that's in people's minds. But he's a sophomore. And next season, they will be in all of these conversations in the season after. So he'll have 2 more seasons of Braxton Miller, of the moves he's thrown, of the long runs. And to see his passing improve, he'll come in, you know, with a much stronger pedigree next season.
And by no means is he done yet this year, because those are going to be 2 pretty high-profile games. Wisconsin and certainly that Michigan game will be enormous if they go into that 11-0.
And he played well last year versus Michigan.
Yep.
And he'll be going head-to-head with Denard Robinson, another big play, dual-threat quarterback. And he'll have a chance to showcase his skills with everyone in the country watching what those 2 quarterbacks are going to do.
Davis getting extensive time. The tight end playing a little tailback here for Illinois. Zach Boren with the tackle. 6th in the AP poll. Of course, they are not in the BCS rankings, but ESPN's Brad Edwards projects that they would also be 6th if they were eligible for the postseason.
In the event they run the table and get up to the #1 ranking, are you willing to vote them the AP champion?
I think what hurts them probably more would be the strength of schedule. Their 2 best wins at this point would be against 20th ranked Nebraska and 20th ranked Michigan State. So it would all depend on what teams would be playing in the BCS championship and who wins that game.
And then Wisconsin loses their starting quarterback in Stalvey.
Yep.
Breaks a collarbone. He's out for the season. He won't be there next week. Denard Robinson didn't actually play today because of injury. So again, those things weaken your schedule. If they run the table, those are questions that people will ask.
And how excited do you think Brett Bielema and Monte Ball and those guys are? The only thing, you know, you'd love to go undefeated, but right after that, you'd love to stop somebody else from going undefeated, and they will be wired for that one. After the Buckeye bye, of course, Wisconsin has Indiana. They could almost lock up the division next weekend in Bloomington, and then hosting Ohio State on November 17th with a shot at ending the unbeaten campaign.
No doubt they're going to get the best shot that Wisconsin can give them, and they're always going to get the best shot that Michigan can give them. You know, Michigan, if they can't get there, the last team that they want to see get there is Ohio State.
Ooh, Michigan spoiled undefeated Buckeye seasons 3 times in the 90s. But Ohio State looking awfully good to get to 10-0. Are we going to see Kenny Guyton the rest of the way? And appears so, as he has the helmet on And Braxton Miller has switched over to the mittens with 9:50 to go.
ESPN College Football is presented by Cars.com, where confidence comes standard. And in part by Miller Lite. Grab your friends, bring your IDs. If you're 21 or over, it's Miller time.
Well, that's the RPAC here on the Ohio State campus. That is open to all of the students here at The Ohio State University with the pool and the weight room. And what a spectacular facility just across the street from Ohio Stadium. 9:40 to go here in the ball game, and a 45-14 Buckeye lead as Kenny Guyton has come on at quarterback, and we'll check in with Reese.
All right, Bet Sports Center right now, presented by Discover Card. West Virginia and TCU. West Virginia with about a minute and a half left, trying to hold a 7-point lead, and for some inexplicable reason, the Mountaineers leave Josh Boyce, their best receiver, by himself. 94-yard touchdown to tie it, and West Virginia just missed a field goal trying to win it. 13 seconds left. Looks as if we're headed to overtime.
Thank you, Reese. Back here in Columbus, Bryante Dunn is now in at running back as well. So with Guyton on at quarterback, who led them that come from behind win against Purdue, the game-tying touchdown and 2-point conversion in the final minute of play, and then winning it in overtime on in relief of the injured Braxton Miller a few weeks ago. For Miller, 73 yards rushing today, and in the air he was 12 for 20, 226 yards and a touchdown. Looked much better throwing the football today than last week against Penn State. And for Carlos Hyde, apparently his day is done. 18 rushes, 137 yards, and 3 scores.
Pass interference, defense number 27. Spot foul, automatic first down.
Redshirt freshman Eaton Spence whistled for the infraction. So 1st and 10 for the Buckeyes. Got a few new guys in there along the front line as well. The give to the freshman Dunn, bounces out across the 35. Well, how about your newly coined Thunder and Lightning, Joey?
And they both showed up here today. We talked about this when this game started. You knew that Illinois had to try to stop Braxton Miller's big playability, and they had to try to stop Carlos Hyde from just running it down their throat. They haven't been able to do either. Both guys have been special today. Braxton Miller throwing and running, and Carlos Hyde punching the ball into the end zone like he has done for the past 5 games.
A little stormy weather, a good thing today for Ohio State. Dunn with the carry out to the 39-yard line, and that'll be enough for the first down. Glenn Foster with the tackle. Carlos Hyde has really emerged and become an outstanding back in his own right, and certainly complimenting Braxton Miller, the 2nd best rushing combo in the country, and amongst the power conferences, they are the top 2.
And we talked about their ability to run the table, beat Wisconsin and Michigan. If they continue to do that, they'll be tough to beat by anybody.
It's incomplete. It was interesting talking to Urban Meyer. You know, obviously after his experiences at Florida, won a couple of national championships. They also had that undefeated team in '09 with Tebow that went late into the year before they lost in the SEC championship game. He said the noise and the attention hasn't been nearly what it was back in Florida in '09. It's been a little bit quieter, and perhaps because they're not eligible for the postseason, a reason here at Ohio State.
And I think that's the biggest reason. That's probably is the only reason. As people know, you know, this team is not in the BCS standings as Kenny Guyton shows the legs and reeling off the ground. And this is a tired Illinois defense now. Their tackling has gotten worse. We've seen earlier when Corey Brown breaks the run for a touchdown. It's just a tired defense. These guys are worn out. They've played a lot of plays here today. They've given up 507 yards of offense, they're worn out, and their tackling is only going to get worse for the next 7 minutes because they don't have the depth to give any of these guys a rest.
Been a long day for the defense as the Buckeyes went ahead big in that second quarter, and they haven't looked back. Let's send it down now to Paul Carcaterra.
Well, Joe, you just mentioned depth, certainly an issue at Illinois. Tim Beckman said he hopes to bring in up to 8 players this January from junior college so they can participate in spring practice. Beckman said, we're not playing with a full deck of cards. Remember this past summer, Beckman received criticism for recruiting current Penn State players. Adding quality players certainly a priority for Beckman.
And you can see why. I mean, you can see that they just don't have any depth. And then they lose Jonathan Brown early in the game, their best defensive player, their best playmaker on defense. They lose him, and they bring in a freshman to back him up, and there's no one left. These guys have got to go, regardless of what this Ohio State offense does. They stay on the field, and you can tell they're tired, they're worn out. So it's going to take a while, and people are upset with the season, the 2-6 record. It's going to take a while for Coach Beckman to turn this around.
That on second down, going to give to Dunn. To the 15. Well, and that's been the challenge really for the last 50 years for coaches at Illinois, to try and find some momentum from season to season. They've had 10 different coaches since they won the national championship in 1951, and only 2 of them have had winning records. And it seems like surrounded by every high, like the Ron Zook team to the Rose Bowl, the Ron Turner team to the Sugar Bowl, those 2 appearances were both bookended by losing seasons right before that and again right after that.
And this was a team that lost their last 6 games before the bowl game last season. So they had problems bringing a new coach. It's going to take time to turn this over. And here's a big play. They need more of these.
Speak of the turnover, Guyton mishandles the pitch, and Illinois will take it the distance. Ashanti Williams going 77 yards for the touchdown. Illinois defense putting some points on the board. They're going to try for a 2-point conversion. They've already succeeded once today. Now they'll go back into field goal position. Imicus out of the Russell hold. Russell going to try and run it in, reaching for the end zone, and in. They get the 2-point conversion.
I don't think that was the plan. I don't think that was the way it was drawn up on the grease board in the locker room.
Well, they come out showing 2-point conversion, then they readjust, and it looked like they were going to try the extra point. And then Russell going to take it in, and Beckman, hey, we'll take the points any way we can get them.
Football in high definition is presented by Vizio.
Back here in Columbus, 45-22, Ohio State with the lead over Illinois, under 5 minutes to go. And off of the turnover, the scoop, and the score for Ashanti Williams. Illinois out there to kick it off. You go for the onside kick here?
I'm guessing they're going to kick it deep. That's just my guess here. We'll see.
Well, the Buckeyes are guessing that it's going to be an onside. Yeah. There is nobody back deep for Ohio State. There is the onside, and it looks like the Illini have got it off the one hop.
And
Buckeyes are saying they touched it before 10 yards.
I think so.
It was recovered beyond 10 yards, but where was the initial contact?
Once again, my prediction was wrong. I'm not.
That was well
batting.
done.
I'm not
That
batting
was
very
well
good-
done.
Very high percentage on the season.
Did you play a lot of special teams, Joe?
No.
On the play, illegal touching, kicking team. It'll be Ohio State's ball, first down. Clock operator. 1 second. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the kicker wasn't going to get it for sure. Zach Boren, forgetting that he was a fullback and used to touch the ball.
Oh, yeah. He
Go
went
straight
right
for the kicker. Don't worry about the ball. I'm going to make sure the kicker does not recover this.
So the Buckeyes will have it, and they'll try and work the clock here with 4:55 to go. And Kenny Guyton at quarterback, Bryante Dunn at tailback. We talked about Illinois, you know, not only trying to maintain here and continue working hard, but as you referenced, Joey, getting ready for the rest of the schedule. And it's a schedule that consists of Minnesota, Purdue, and then at Northwestern. Still left on the slate to try and start, well, first of all, ending the Big Ten losing streak and then trying to get some momentum going for Tim Beckman.
Yeah, and they're going to have to think about it. The turnover they created was on the 10th play of the drive. Then their defense has come back on the field. I mean, it's going to be tough because of the depth, because this defense is worn down and they're tired and they have injuries, and you'll see when Jonathan Brown will return. Definitely not today, but you know which game he'll return. You know, and then you got Minnesota, who's 1-3 in conference, Purdue's 0-4 in conference, and we've seen Northwestern quite a few times, very explosive on offense. So they're going to try to see if they can find some positives in those next 3 games as they're looking towards next season. You know, they're in a situation where they try to improve on as much as they can through the rest of this season, and then look toward bringing guys in and get ready for next season.
Well, it's not just Tim Beckman, it's also men's basketball coach John Gross, women's basketball coach Matt Bowen, all new this year. 3 of the bigger paychecks in the athletic department. Let's get an update now from Reese Davis.
All right, Beth. Game going on in East Lansing. Nebraska's leading in the Legends Division, down by 10 to Michigan State. Taylor Martinez is on the loose. Martinez has thrown 3 picks today, but he draws the Huskers to within 3. 7:02 remaining. Many seeing it on ABC.
Thank you, Reese. Spartan fans and Wolverine fans together cheering on Michigan State right now. They can jump back into the lead in the Leaders Division only if Nebraska falters for Michigan. That would also bring Northwestern back into the picture as well, because Northwestern's at Michigan next weekend.
The Big Ten has been probably, you know, when you look at the conference, you just week in and week out, you never know who's going to win. You started the season thinking Michigan was going to be good off of what they did last season. You thought Wisconsin was going to be good off of what they've been able to do running the football in the past few years. And now, I mean, everything is still up for grabs. Even Indiana is still in the conversation after only having 1 conference win. So, I mean, that's how up in the air the Big Ten has been.
The other side, these 2 teams here in the leaders, but over in the Legends, you know, Michigan is at 4-1, but they do not have the tiebreaker. Nebraska has the tiebreaker, so they need a second Husker loss to jump in front. And then Northwestern, if they could beat Michigan next week, they would have the head-to-head with the Wolverines. They do not have the head-to-head with Nebraska after that tough loss and the terrific comeback by the Huskers in Chicago.
And that is a lot. That's a lot to calculate, Beth. And it's going to take someone like you. It's going to take someone like you to help out the people like me and keeping track of who's still in this conversation, because there's so many people still have to play one another to see who at the end represents each conference in the championship game.
Indiana, by the way, trailing Iowa 14-10 Indiana needs to win that to make their matchup with Wisconsin more meaningful next week as Bryante Dunn finds the end zone for 6 more for Ohio State. And Urban Meyer will go ahead and take off the headset, as will Tim Beckman, with 1:26 to go. The extra point is good for Ohio State at a 52-22 lead. Other than Joey Galloway.
Looking forward to some nice warm Texas weather. Feels like it's about 10 degrees here as nightfall hits us. Yeah, looking forward to the race and definitely looking forward to some warm weather.
What do you love about NASCAR, watching it live?
I actually love the speed, number one, and to see what these guys actually do out there, you know, when they do go over the wall and change tires and, you know, keep these cars on the track. It's pretty amazing what they actually accomplish out there with some hammers and tape.
Yeah. Instead of timing them in the 40, they got to time them in the 4, like the 4-yard race to run around to the other side of the car to switch that tire. What kind of speed they need.
And they do. There is a stopwatch on those guys every time they go over the wall. It's impressive.
Well, some hugs for Urban Meyer.
Hey,
Jonathan
there's a
Hankins.
smile.
How about that?
There's a smile. Now he's going to choose someone out because of the mistakes, but get a smile in before the end of the game.
10-0 and into the bye week for the Buckeyes. And then Wisconsin and Michigan, the final 2 weeks of the season. The only thing standing between OSU and a 12-0 year. Both sides, legends and leaders. Of course, the Buckeyes and Penn State ineligible to play in that Big Ten championship game. So Wisconsin out in front in the leaders race to get to Indianapolis. And depending on what happens in that Nebraska-Michigan State game in East Lansing, first place could switch hands and go back to Michigan by the end of the day. They beat Minnesota earlier to take the little brown jug. Final minute here in Columbus. And the sack. Adolphus Washington, the true freshman.
And this is valuable time for these freshmen at Ohio State. They have a number of true freshmen, defensive linemen, defensive players that, you know, they get a chance to play now and get a chance to gain experience because these guys are the future. You know, when Urban Meyer showed up and the recruiting class came in, that's what they talked about was the defensive linemen. These guys have played well. They've had a chance to play a lot. And then you see Washington get a sack here toward the end of the game.
Washington, Tommy Shutt, Noah Spence, the freshman, and then Steve Miller, Joel Hale, Michael Bennett, the sophomores, all getting quality time this year, backing up the seniors and the junior Hankins as the starting unit. And that incompletion will close out the final seconds. And the teams quick to separate each other in the final moments. Good friends, they've coached together, and they face off against each other today. Urban Meyer gets the win for the Buckeyes over Tim Beckman and the Fighting Illini. 52-22, the final, as the Buckeyes join Auburn in the '93 season as ineligible teams for the postseason that start out the year 10-0. Final score, Ohio State 52, Illinois 22. Now let's send you back to the studio. Reese Davis, Mark May, and Lou Holtz.